Alright, so right now I'm working on my back brakes and I'm about halfway through, more than halfway, just cleaning up. I decided it'd be a good project to kind of video record to put on my channel. When I remember, I try to put stuff on it. So what I'm working on is a 2011, hold on, let me flip the camera around, Ford F250 that I got about a year ago. You can see I got the hub off and the backing plate, and I'm trying to get the rust off. It's bad. As far as I know, it's not a northern truck, but the backing plates are rusted out. This one wasn't as bad as the other side. Here's this one, and it's over 100 degrees out today. You can see how all that had rusted through. And then this side over here, I finished up yesterday. I gotta fix the backing plate. I ordered these backing plates off of Amazon and searched for them, but it's so rusted through that it wouldn't even hold the pin for the parking brakes. And when I pulled this one off, there was no brakes at all. So what I've done so far, yesterday I swapped out my Death jack stands at Harbor Freight. What I've done so far is I've taken the hub off, taken the axle out, taking the bearings out. There's the hub, and I got the backing plate off. I did the brakes back in March, I did in March, early April, before we went to Disney. But the thing was, I found this problem. So brake pad's already done, caliper's already clean, so that's just hanging over there. Right now I've got my pneumatic sander and I'm just working. You can see a little bit underneath how much worse it is because I've not been able to get under there, but it was caked on. So this is where I'm at right now. Finished this, I got my engine black paint here to spray on it, and then I'm also gonna sand somewhat on the actual, I don't know what the technical term was, but sand some on that and paint that as well. You see that ear where the parking brakes go, drum brakes pinch up to, that one on the other side, actually when I was popping the bolts out through those holes, I actually knocked it off and took it to the welder and just tapped it back on, tack welded it back on, so that hopefully that holds. And here's actually this side had shoes on it, so it's not as bad, but it's hot. I've been out here, I don't know, it's 1 o'clock and it's 2:59, so I've been out here about 2 hours and got my Harbor Freight kit out. It's not a terrible job. I've got this air blower on me, turned it off to make this recording, but it's tool intensive. If you're looking for tools, kind of make a tool list to do this, I recommend this Lyle emergent parking brake tool that helps you get the spring off. I've got the part number here somewhere, but I got it off Amazon, I think for 20 bucks or between 8 and 20 bucks. It wasn't much of a difference between that tool, the Lyle tool, and the knockoffs. So there it is, 40750. I bought that because when I tried to take this parking brake spring off, this guy here, back in March, it took me forever. I used that, hooked up that tool along with these hose pliers to get that pin, and it has to fit through the back there. So you also are going to need to take out the ABS sensor, and that's a 10. You're going to need your, give you the lug size. Let's set it over here. It's a 19 millimeter. Well, that's on mine. I got those. It came with those tires. 19 millimeter. Then you're gonna need 21 millimeter to take off your I can't remember what those are called right now. Brake frame. And I can't tell you what these are right now on the caliper, probably 17 or 18. And so once you get that off, hang it off to the side, then the rotor will come off. Set that to the side. Next thing is you're going to need your 15 millimeter and that's going to take off your axle. So there's 8 axle bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 axle bolts. Take them off in a crisscross pattern. Pull the axle out gently, because there's a seal around it. Set it to the side. Now then you'll have your backing plate there. The bolts on the nuts on the back fit right here, 24 millimeter. And obviously this side you're going to do right, turn it to the right to loosen it since it's opposite you. And I had this long Pittsburgh wrench. That worked really well, and it's hard to get impact back there. So I used the 24 impact long wrench with my 9-pound hammer, which is still over in the garage from where I knocked the lugs out. Once you get all 4 off, once you get them loose, I use the ratchet there to get off the rest of the way. Then a little hammer to tap it off, break the rust seal. Then you take that and you've got to hammer out those bolts because they're kind of pressured in there like lugs. Be careful when you are banging them out because you do not want to hit that ear right there anywhere on the concrete because it will break. If it does break, weld it back on. That's what I did, and I was very careful with this side, and even with that you can see that I still got some scrape on it. So once you've got that off, set that to the side. Then if your hub is anything like mine, when it comes off, I guess before you get that far, it's going to be stuck and you're going to have to pry it off. You can see right there, you got to pry it off piece by piece because it's going to be stuck due to the rust that was under here. Then once you got that off, yeah, I'm sanding it down. I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be perfect, but I want it to kind of be smooth. It's smoother up here now on the bottom, not so like dirt. And then once you've got that done, put it back together. One tip I learned with putting the new backing plate on, and I'll give you the model number before I'm done, is don't try to hammer those lugs through. Push them through, push the bolts through, and then put the nuts that go on the back. Set them up here, put them on the back and tighten them down with an impact. Because if you don't, then they're going to go through cockeyed. But I found that kind of brought them in square and straight. Then just put everything back on in reverse. And to get the bearing nut, axle nut out, which is right there, you do need this tool. And I got this one from O'Reilly's. It fits pretty much all the Fords from 92. It fits my 92 F250 as well. It's a W83008. And this is the driver's side, and this side is lefty-tighty. So you want to go right, tighten it to take this side off. And then when you put it back together, don't forget to put your new shoes on. Like I said, the other side didn't have shoes in it. And then I did notice that this is the spring thing that instead of having your wheel cylinder like you have on drum brakes, you have this thing, and the spring when you hit the parking brake pulls that this way, and that's what tightens the brakes. This, I can't do it with one hand, it's seized. And the other side was the same way. So what I did was, I was going to try to knock that pin through. Focus. But what I did was I took brake clean and I just sprayed in there and sprayed on each side real good. Wiggled it, then just kept spraying it until it was pretty loose. And then that fits in the top. So you got to take this part from your original. You will not have another one of these. You have to order these separate. But your drum tool, your parking brake spring kit will come with everything you need except for this. Your backing plate will come with your replacement spring, and I don't see that here anywhere. Not spring, but rubber boot. So there's your rubber boot. That just helps keep dust and stuff out of here. Not that it worked that well. Then just in reverse, put it back together. So I'm gonna stop here and get back to sanding this a little more, and then I'll give you an update. All right, so here's the Dorman part number on the backing plates, 924-026. That is the driver's side, so I'm assuming, I didn't get it off before I did it, but I'm assuming that the backing plate for the passenger side is probably one number off. So one thing else you'll avoid by screwing this in instead of banging it in is bending this backing plate. I bit the one on the other side, and I've got to take my wheel off again and bend it back and get rid of that all the way down the road. So here's this. This is the boot that comes with it. I'm gonna pop that off real quick. Set that right there. And then to figure out which way it goes, all right, I know that's the top, and I know that the bracket for the caliper mount is there, so then I put some, sanded that down and put paint on it. And so I think this is it. And then the bolts are here. They're called lugs, and they just go in that way. And then you just put the bolts in them. The nuts on the other side and tighten them down, and then I'll be ready to install. So there's that. And let me carry it over. The paint is sticky. Turn the fan off. Alright, so there's it cleaned up as good as I can get it. It's really pitted. Let's see how pitted it was. And I sprayed down my brake clean. And then I covered it up the hub, well, whatever that is, I call the technical term for it. Axle end, axle shaft, with the rag, and sprayed the back with paint. So the seal, and I'll get the seal here in a minute, that goes on the hub only sits over this part here. So I got 2,000 grit or so after, and I kind of polished it. So I'll put a little grease on it, and the only thing I think that the seal does is it keeps dust from coming in. As far as I can gather, that once you have that axle on, there's nothing coming, no grease coming out the end. It just comes out into the bearings, maybe just keeps a little bit from leaking out the inside. But that rear axle lube is so thick that it's nothing, in centrifugal force, nothing's gonna get out. If it does, it's gonna be so minimum. And it'll be a rust preventer, so it took me about an hour of sanding because I had to go all the way around. I had to get on my butt, go up underneath there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook the nuts on that, cinch it down, and I'm back because I don't have a stand and I'm just holding the hand out here. Okay, so I was somewhat wrong with my instructions. You do need to tap in the lugs a little bit, or not a little bit, enough to get the splines in there, and more than enough to cause it to strip, so that way it'll grip. So I took my 9-pound hammer and pounded it in, just sit in my lap like this, just to get it in there, maybe halfway, and then I put the bolts, the nuts on, and got those going. And then I didn't want to tighten them all the way down because I don't want to risk Big Mama. That's what I call my DeWalt 1/2-inch drive. I don't want to risk that getting stripped out in the holes and have to go buy a whole new plate. So there's that. And just what I have been doing, because there's a lot of threads here, is I'm taking that 24 and I'm using a Milwaukee 3/8. Actually, it's a 3/8 drive, but I've been using the adapter for a 1/2-inch and running those down as far as I can get them. Then socket, using a socket to get it back in, and then a wrench, and then I'm not torquing it. I can't break that bolt, so I'm just gonna hit it as hard as tight as hard as I can. I'm not gonna be able to break it, and that's gonna be fine. So I'll be back in a minute with what is it? All right, so I think I made a mistake, got ahead of myself, and I got the brakes on here before I put the hook on. I'm gonna try to squeeze the ABS sensor tune ring in behind it, but first I'm gonna clean it up. You see how much rust and goo's in there, so I'm gonna clean it up. Next time you see me, I'll have the seal in. But I just want to say, after you got backing plate on, hub, but just let you know in a second if I was able to get it in. I don't want to break it, but I don't want to take that back off again because it was easier than last time, and next time probably easier than this time, but it's still a chore. All right, putting the brakes back in. Quick tip here, that C-clamp has helped me, but if you put those springs on first, get it up in there, it'll hold it on, and then the C-clamp will help hold it on. Get you some pliers. I got these pistol grip pliers. Get it lined up where you need it. Grab a hold of that pin, don't break it, and then with your other hand use a wrench just to push in so you can turn. So once you got those on, turn those down. Just how I want to do it. These are your retainers. All right, got the seal in, and I'm about to put the hub back in, or at least try. And then the seal number I got here is the 370247A. This is the inner rear on both. Maybe even be the front. I don't know for sure, but this is the same number for Master Pro, Precision. I think it's a national seal number. All right, so I'm gonna pick this up and put it on and see if I can get it on there without having to take the brake shoes off. Yep, got it back on. It cleared. I probably should have stopped and pulled it back off and done the springs down there, but I don't think it's gonna be too bad. Maybe a little more difficult to adjust, but since it's not like shoes, then I mean wheel cylinder, then the hard part's done. Got that spring in there, and let me just show you quickly. I saw this on a video. I was having a hard time getting it to configure, but the best way to get these springs on is to do it first. So you want to have the small skinny end up top on both, and these are all four are identical. So, and where's my yellow spring? Yeah. So the idea is you want the spring end to be out, so that if you're looking from the side, it's like this, and then the ears are going to be hooking down because of the way this curves. So the first one's not too hard. You get it in there and wiggle it around. And so on the back side, it looks like that. And if you can see here, the spring is, the spine of the spring is flat against the shoe, and then you got the bulk there. The hard one is the second one, and let's see if I can do this one-handed. There you go, got it. So then the key is when you put it on, you have to fold these out like that. We can pretend you got one hand on each side, but you open it up, spread it across the ears, and then push it on. Once you push it on, it's going to stay with tension. And then you take you a C-clamp. I got the big long one, and that will hold one on while you get the pins on. So that's the hardest part. Then the next thing is I'm going to put my adjuster down here and then pull my spring across. That's not going to be terribly hard. So, all right, I got to run and get Chinese food. I'll come back later. It's about 6 o'clock. I think I'm going to be able to. You can see that one. I got it spread out perfect. Barely. I don't know if you can see up under there. Barely. And barely. So I'm going to put the axle, the bearing and the axle nut back on, kind of tighten it down and push it on. All right, before I put the rotor back on, just want you to see the current configuration. So you have the top spring there, and then you have the parking brakes lever there. Key thing is you want the hook on the back side right here. You want that hook facing away from where the parking spring sits. So it's going to sit there. I had a bee on me. It's going to sit there, and then the end's going to hook right there. So you want that hook, and if you see when I pull on that, and I pull that lever, it pushes those pads apart, and that's how the parking brake works. Now, underneath here, I was able to get it good, and I got, I don't know, 4 or 5 threads on it. Put the rotor on it, it was a little tight, so we're good to go. And then this spring here just hooks across. It's a little bugger to get in with the hub on, but I used my pistol grip pliers there, and I was able to maneuver it and get it in and then pop it in. If you don't think it's all the way in, it's not. You gotta hear it click. So, oops, sorry. So, and that's it. So now I'm gonna put the rotor back on. It's about the thunder, so I don't know how much more I'm gonna get done today. All right, rotor's on, axle's in, nuts are in. I just gotta torque them. And just FYI, torque specs, what I found on Google in the book was 60 foot-pounds. So I'm gonna torque those down and I'll be back. ABS sensor, I cleaned it off and it's in. I just torqued it down to good and tight and didn't go over torque it. And I just used a 1/4 inch drive so I didn't break it. And then that's how the parking brake should hook in. I didn't need the tool to put it in to reinstall it, just hooked it in up this way and then around and then just pulled it back there. So next up, pull these tools out. Probably just gonna toss these tools in the box so I can go to the garage and put the tire on. So that should be it. Maybe I'll pop on here to show you if there's anything else. So I got everything put back together. I just wanted to come here and conclude. I'm gonna put in the description all the tools and parts I used, the backing plates, any links that I had to Amazon, and the Dorman kit for the hardware parts and the brakes. So there's that. Everything seems to be working well. I didn't get to drive it. Started thundering and lightning and had to clean up real fast. And let's see if anything happens with the ABS sensor. I think some of the rust that was loosened last time I had it off was causing the ABS magnet was sticking to the magnet and causing the sensor to go off. So we'll see. I'll update something in the description if there are any issues, but I think that's it. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. I just wanted to be quick and to the point to provide information where I couldn't find it. So all right, have a good one. Till next time.